All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to a special webinar tonight, special presentation for Lumaxa with special guest Rik Deitsch, CEO of Nutrapharma Corporation, is with us tonight for a very special update. So we're very excited that you're here tonight. This is Steve Gawacki. I'm going to be hosting this evening, and along with turning the presentation over here to Rik here shortly. We're going to have an opportunity here to catch a lot of good updates and information about what's been happening with Nutrapharma and the Nyloxin pain products, Pet Pain Away, and other exciting things that they have going on. Because some of you I know are involved outside of Lumaxa. You are also investors in his company, and so you'll be interested from a couple different angles tonight to learn more about what's going on with Nutrapharma. A big press release went out today, and a lot of great updates in that press release. Rik will be sharing those things with us tonight. So, folks, I would definitely pick up your phone, start texting some people. This was kind of a last-minute thing this afternoon. It didn't get emailed out, as early as we would have liked, at the beginning of the day. But so take a few minutes here, real quick here, folks, while I'm kind of stalling a minute, to send out a couple text messages, go on Facebook, invite some of your team on here to get these updates, especially, if they our stockholders in Nutrapharma. This is not a stockholder meeting, but they're going to hear a lot of exciting update and information from Rik tonight. So definitely take a minute to send out some invites and load up this call. And with that, I want to go ahead and just make sure we've got our connection with Rik opened up here. Rik, are you with us tonight?
I'm right here.
Hey, there he is. Fantastic. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have Mr. Rik Deitsch on the line again, CEO of Nutrapharma. And for those of you that might be new with us tonight, Rik is the formulator for the Nyloxin and the Pet Pain Away products that we represent here at Lumaxa, and had a chance to visit Rik here about 8 weeks ago down in Florida. And Rik, does this look familiar right here? As the last time we were down in Florida, we went down to the snake farm and did a tour down there. It was my first time to the snake farm in Homestead, and got not quite that close, but it felt like it, even though the snakes were about 8 feet away. And Rik told me today he was down to Homestead at the snake farm, and I said, better you than me, because I don't want to go back. That place is kind of scary, being around all those cobras. But we had a great tour down there, and opportunity to catch up a little bit back then. But a lot has happened, I hear, since even the last couple months. But some people, it's been a while since we've had you on the webinar, so I'm so glad it worked out for you and your schedule to be here tonight. And it's always an honor and a privilege to have you with us, Rik. So thank you for joining us. And well, I'm going to turn the microphone over to you, because we want to hear from you tonight and what's going on, all the exciting things happening with Nutrapharma. Rik?
Okay. All right. Thanks, Steve. So I just was at the snake farm today. And for anyone who's listening, if you want to see something fun, just go to the Nutrapharma Corporation Facebook page. Just look up Nutrapharma Corp, or it's facebook.com/Nutrapharma Corp, C-O-R-P. And there's videos, there's pictures of the snakes in the snake farm, and there's also a video of me playing with a cobra. So you can see it's real. We really do have cobras, and we use their venom for the production of our drugs. So what Steve just mentioned is there was a press release today where I was interviewed by Life Sciences Reporter, and that interview was posted on their website today. And I kind of outlined what's going on with Nutrapharma, with our drug products, and with our over-the-counter products. And I'll kind of go over that again. I'll also say this. I was also interviewed by the SNN, Stock News Now, and that's a video interview, and that should be posted to YouTube probably by Monday. So if you watch our press releases, you'll see that video interview as well, where I go over a lot of the same stuff. But in essence, we've been very, very busy at Nutrapharma, moving things forward. And I'm trying to make sure people understand what kind of company we are. See, Nutrapharma is a biotechnology company. That means we actually work on drug production, on inventing and studying and bringing new drugs to market. That story got lost a little bit because in 2009, one of the drugs we were working on, we brought to the FDA, and they told us it qualified as a homeopathic drug, because the raw material that we used for the drug was a natural product, and it was such an infinitesimal dose, several microgram dose, that qualified under the realm of homeopathic drugs. And so we launched as a homeopathic. And the problem is that people started tying the company to the sales of the over-the-counter drug instead of looking at us as a true biotechnology company. And I'm trying to correct that feeling right now, which will do great things for us. First of all, it'll open us to licensing deals with large pharma. It'll allow us to move our drugs through the pipeline much more expeditiously, and it should increase our market value because a biotechnology company is speculative and usually trades at huge multiples to their normal value, whereas a company that sells over-the-counter homeopathic remedies usually trades to either a discount of its valuation or a little above its sales. And so if you think about Nutrapharma and the history of Nutrapharma, we actually had a higher stock price and a higher valuation before we did a penny in revenue, before we made any money. And that's kind of strange. You know, we were a speculative biotechnology company. We traded at much higher levels. And so we need to get back there. So let's talk about what Nutrapharma is. We're a biotechnology company. We have 21 patents. But of those patents, we have 3 key patents. One patent covers our drugs for the treatment of autoimmune diseases. These are diseases where the immune system itself is the culprit and causes the disease and destruction of normal tissue. As an example, multiple sclerosis. MS is an autoimmune disease. Your immune system attacks the myelin sheath, the fatty insulating sheaths around your nerves, and so it causes nerve damage, which many patients are relapsing, remitting, but eventually become progressive, and it's a disease that gets worse over time. All of the treatments for MS slow the forward progression of the disease. They don't stop it, they don't reverse it, they slow it down. And they mostly work by being immunosuppressive agents. They turn off the immune system. Our drug is an immunomodulating agent. It modulates or mediates the immune system. So the immune system reaction that causes autoimmune diseases is called a hyperimmune reaction. We calm that down. We say, hey, listen, immune system, calm down, check yourself, stop this hyperimmune reaction, and understand that you need to work appropriately. And so we don't have any of the side effects that are normally seen with these immunosuppressive agents. And if you've ever heard a commercial for Enbrel or Humira or any of those drugs, what do you hear? They say, oh, take this for your arthritis, your rheumatoid arthritis, and it's going to make you feel better and your golf swing is going to improve. But then they start listing out the side effects. Have your doctor check you for infection. If you have an infection, do not start taking this medication. Get checked for TB before using this medication. Cancer and death has happened because what these drugs do is turn off your immune system. And when your immune system gets turned off, you can get every sort of disease or dysfunction, and any infection could run rampant. We don't have that problem with our drugs. With the RPI-78M is our drug for autoimmune diseases, and it modulates the immune system, so it deals with the hyperimmune reaction without stopping the regular immune system processes. So we have studied it in over 300 MS patients, and what we found across the board is that when you start using our drug, basically the disease progression stops, and over time symptoms improve. Now, these were open label trials. These weren't controlled trials, so these don't really count as far as the FDA is concerned. These are all for safety. But what we've done to try and move that process forward is we've applied for something called orphan status with the FDA. Now, what orphan status means is you look at diseases where there's fewer than 200,000 patients. Those are called orphan diseases. And basically, when you have so few patients, most biotech companies and big pharma companies don't want to go after those diseases because there's just too few patients. There's no way to really make your money on it. So back in 1984, Congress passed the Orphan Drug Act, which basically states that if a pharmaceutical company will go after one of these orphan diseases, they get all sorts of special dispensation. You get a waiver of fees, over $2 million in FDA fees. You get expedited filing. You get expedited review. You can become fast track. You get rolling review from the FDA. And then if you actually get the drug approved, you get a period, usually about 7 years, of exclusivity in that disease. In other words, you own the disease for 7 years. So we've applied for orphan status and been granted orphan status for the treatment of juvenile multiple sclerosis. That's multiple sclerosis that affects people under 18 years of age. Only about 10 to 15,000 patients in the United States. But what that allows us to do is move into clinical trials very quickly and very cheaply and get our drug approved in a much shorter time frame than we otherwise would have. Now, once the drug is approved, we can talk about, did it really work in MS? Do we think it'll work in different forms of MS or different autoimmune diseases? And in this case, instead of working with a concept or an idea, we'll be working with an approved drug that we can start to look at other indications for. And it really shortens the timeline and the cost of doing these trials. And it's probably going to mean a much quicker license deal with a large company, which is really the goal. We wanted to invent and license. So that's our first patent for autoimmune diseases. Now, once we finish with juvenile MS, or pediatric MS, we're looking at other autoimmune diseases. Another orphan disease is called myasthenia gravis. We're looking at that. We're looking at all forms of rheumatoid arthritis, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, type 1 diabetes. All of these are autoimmune diseases which we believe could be helped by RPI-78M, and we're going to continue that platform. Our second patent is an antiviral patent. It's for our drugs against viral disorders. And the way the antiviral works is it actually puts your cells into an antiviral state. It blocks the chemokine receptors on the cell surface, and it prevents viruses from getting in and taking over the cell. So we've studied HIV, we've studied different forms of herpes, and that patent protects pretty much any virus that we're going to go after. And then lastly, we have a patent for pain, and that covers naloxone and pet pain away, but it's also going to cover any ethical drugs we develop for the treatment of pain. So these are the three most recent patents and really the formation or foundation of our biotechnology platform. And people have to understand this is a platform. It means drug after drug or license after license, even for the same drug. And for those of you who don't understand, you can license the same drug over and over again for different indications. A great example is Amgen has a drug called erythropoietin alpha, and they call it Procrit. They license it and sell it for cancer patients to improve red blood cell production. And then they have the same drug, Epigen. It's the exact same drug, but they sell it for kidney patients. And so two different indications. They call the drug two different things, even though it's the same drug. So we imagine that we'll do that with RPI-78M as well, and also with RPI-MN, our antiviral drug. So we have a lot to do when it comes to clinical research and moving the platform forward. But these address huge markets. I mean, MS alone is a $12 to $15 billion market, and that's just MS. So we start looking at rheumatoid arthritis, 15 to 20 billion, type 1 diabetes, another 8 to 10 billion. These are huge markets that we can address in the next 5 years. And we need to be treated like that company that can address those concepts and those disease states. So that's really the point of the interviews I've been doing, is to get people back to thinking that we are truly a biotechnology company with really amazing new drugs. And we're working on new drugs. We met last week to work on a concept for treating Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS, with some of these same indications. And we're going to be filing new patents for that. So we'll have even new intellectual property as we move the company forward. So that tells you that we're still working, we're still in the lab, we're still vibrant, we're still coming up with new ideas as we prove the ideas we already have. So that's important. Now, what makes us really special as a biotechnology company is we're not just developing these drugs, these great drugs, and moving forward. We're trying to mitigate the risk to the investors by creating products that we can sell and pay the bills and bring in revenue and pay for the clinical studies instead of just constantly going out and raising money. And to that end, we have naloxone for humans and pet pain away for dogs and cats. And you guys are familiar with those products, but I'll go over them because they are really life-changing. And if you haven't used them, if you haven't tried pet pain away in your dogs and cats, if you haven't tried naloxone for yourself or your loved ones, you have to try it. It's really a completely different way of dealing with pain and inflammation than anything else out there. The cobra venom, which is the raw material that we use in our products, has several different peptides, and we look at 4 different peptides specifically. And peptides are really small proteins. These proteins bind to receptors on the cell surface throughout your body. Primarily, these are neurotoxins, so they bind to receptors on the nerve, and they also bind to receptors on the surface of white blood cells. And by doing so, they block the pain signal directly. And in fact, with the oral spray, we found that it blocks the pain signal in the brain and the parafascicular nucleus, the part of the brain that processes pain. And then we also block that same receptor on white blood cells, and that modulates or mediates inflammation. So it's not just numbing the pain or stopping the pain, it's also preventing inflammation, which can help in the healing process. Now, it's a completely unique, novel way to treat pain and inflammation, which means that if you take any other pain medication with the naloxone, you greatly increase its efficacy. It's synergistic. So what I tell people is if they start using naloxone and they're on other pain medication, keep the pain medication. Don't go off it. And just start using naloxone. They're going to get incredible results. And then as you use naloxone for a week or 2 weeks, you can start weaning yourself off of every other pain medication and just use naloxone. And I can tell you literally dozens of people I know personally that have gotten off of morphine and oxycodone and fentanyl and other drugs just to use naloxone, and that's enough to treat their pain. So it's absolutely amazing. Now, we do have 2 levels of naloxone. We have regular and extra strength. And regular deals with stage 2 pain and extra strength for stage 3 pain. The only difference is that extra strength has twice the active ingredient, twice the cobra venom in it that the regular strength has. Now, to define the difference between stage 2 and stage 3 pain, the World Health Organization stages pain in 3 levels. And if you think of it as a scale of 1 to 10, stage 1 is 1 to 4. You're in pain from 1 to 4. Stage 2 is 4 to 7, and stage 3 is 7 to 10. And the way they denote the levels is stage 1 is pain that's inconvenient. You can kind of deal with it, but it's annoying. Stage 2 pain is pain that interrupts your sleep and or your work. And stage 3 pain is considered intractable pain. You can't function without some form of medication to deal with the pain. So stage 2 pain, stage 1 pain is usually you just take over the counters. Aspirin, ibuprofen, naproxen, Motrin, Aleve, or Tylenol, acetaminophen. Stage 2 pain, you take all those at higher doses, or you start taking low-dose opiates, Percocet, Vicodin, things like that. And then stage 3 pain is opiates. That's your fentanyl, your morphine, your oxycodone. That's when you're taking those heavy medications. Now, what people tend not to really talk about is even the stage 1 medications are dangerous. NSAIDs like aspirin and Motrin or ibuprofen and then naproxen, NSAIDs in the blood. They can cause kidney damage and then cause bleeding in the digestive tract, ulcer conditions. And so they can be dangerous even at low levels. And so you got to be really careful about taking it chronically. When you're in chronic pain, you shouldn't be taking those drugs every single day. You're going to have side effects eventually from those medications. Even Tylenol, which was considered the safest of those drugs, Tylenol is not an NSAID, but it's acetaminophen. It can cause liver damage. And in fact, it's become so prevalent that now anything that contains acetaminophen has a black box warning on it that warns you not to exceed certain doses or it will cause liver damage. And those are simply the counters. And then you have the opiates. The stronger drugs are addictive. They cause all sorts of damage to organs and long-term damage to bodily functions, as well as cognitive decline and all the other issues you get with the opiates. Naloxone has none of those issues. It's non-addictive, non-opiate, non-narcotic. It doesn't cause thinning of the blood. It doesn't cause any damage to the organs. The only thing we've really seen with naloxone is when you take really high doses, it can cause low-level dehydration. So people complain of a headache or muscle cramps when they take huge doses of naloxone. All of these is simply dehydration. So if you're using a lot of it, just drink plenty of water. Drink more water and you won't have any issues. Now, just like any natural product, there are people that are going to be allergic to naloxone. And so we say if you have a mild rash, if you get like an itchy throat when you start to take the oral spray, you should discontinue use. We found that approximately 1 in 1,000 or 0.1% will have an allergic reaction to the product, and it's a mild allergic reaction. And so we simply say discontinue use. If it's annoying, you can take an antihistamine like Benadryl, and the side effects will go away. That's, like I said, about 1 in 1,000 people. And certainly not dangerous. Not dangerous at all. Now, we do have the naloxone in two forms, oral spray and topical gel. The oral spray is good for pain all over your body. You simply spray it in your mouth 3 to 4 times a day, usually 3 to 4 sprays, 3 to 4 times a day when you first start. And it takes care of pain and inflammation all over your body, even goes to your brain, and stops the way you process pain. Now, the oral spray can take 5 to 7 days to maximize. So we tell people to continue using it over 5 to 7 days, and they'll feel better and better and better. Now, the topical gel is site-specific. Wherever you rub it on, that's where it's going to give that's where it's going to be the most benefit. And it's better where there's not a lot of fat or muscle. So you want to use it in your hands, your wrists, your elbows, your knees, your ankles. You certainly can use it on your back and your neck, but it's going to be most effective where there's not a lot of fat or muscle. And the topical gel usually works within 20 minutes. People get an almost immediate response. But even like the oral spray, it's going to work better and better over time. So as you continue to use it, after a week or so, it's going to maximize. You're going to feel better and better as you use it. It's a really interesting mechanism. You see, the way these proteins, these peptides, bind to the receptors have to slightly change shape to accept the peptides. It's a phenomenon known as induced fit. So what happens is the more you use the product, the more the receptors get used to changing their shape to accept the protein, and they become more sensitive to the drugs. They become more sensitive to naloxone. And so you need less over time to get the same benefit, and your benefit maximizes. Now, this is a really important point. Every other medication on the planet is the exact opposite. As you use it, the more you use it, the more resistant you become to those drugs. And what happens is you have to have an increasing dose, an escalating dose, to use more and more to get the same benefit. At some point, you have something called the ceiling effect, which means it stops working and you got to switch drugs. And that's why people are constantly switching their pain medication. With naloxone, you need less and less over time, and it lasts longer and longer as you use it. So it's really amazing. You grow more sensitive to the drugs instead of resistant to them. And that's a really key point. Now, you can certainly use the oil spray and the topical gel together. If you have, say, rheumatoid arthritis, you have pain all over, you want to take the oil spray, and then you want to use the gel wherever there's specific areas of intense pain, like in your hands, your wrists, your elbows, things like that. And like I said, you can certainly use both. So that's the naloxone. We're distributing naloxone right now through Lumaxa, through your distributors, mostly domestically. But we did get approval in India, and we've signed up a distributor in India, Essevier Pharmachem, and we're expecting the first large orders from India shortly, and we'll be announcing that probably in the next few weeks or a month or so. We've also gotten CPAM approval in China, which means the Chinese government sees a need for the product and want to move forward. So we've got an offer from one of the larger distributors in China, and we're working on finalizing that deal. We do expect to have a dedicated distributor for the Chinese marketplace sometime before the end of the year, and some initial orders from those people. Now, they also have to do the regulatory approval, which can take 6 to 12 months in China. So even if we get the initial orders, it's not going to deliver until sometime late next year. And then we've also announced Canada. We've been working with Chris Sullivan. We've announced it before to set up a warehouse in Chatham, Ontario. And we've already begun the process of regulatory approval in Canada. And we expect to have that, if not by the end of the year, then sometime in the first quarter next year. And then we'll be able to sell all over the place in Canada. And so we are doing really massive work on distribution of the product. The other thing I announced today in my interview is that we're working on distribution directly to the VA and the U.S. government and directly into doctors' offices, chiropractors, pharmacies, and things like that. And when I talk about pharmacy, I talk about behind the counter as a drug product. And so we do expect a great increase in not only domestic sales, but international sales over the next 12 months. And that's going to be nothing but amazing for the company. So lastly, we have Pet Pain Away. And when we first launched naloxone, people told me they used it in their animals. They gave it to their dogs, their cats, they gave it to birds, and they had these amazing results from the naloxone. So we decided to make the product specifically for companion animals, and we made the Pet Pain Away specifically for dogs and cats. It's an oral gel. You can give it to them right by mouth or put it in their food. And it's chicken gravy, a natural chicken gravy. It's hypoallergenic. So even if your dog is allergic to chicken, they can use the Pet Pain Away. And the product is amazing. We've had vets call it a miracle. You have to understand that there's really nothing you can give a dog or a cat for pain. For dogs, you usually give them Demerol or Tramadol, which are opiates, and really just knock them out. They just pass out. There's also NSAIDs that you can give a dog, but it causes thinning of the blood and kidney problems, and it also causes severe nausea, so you can only use it very limited amount of time. All pain medications for cats cause kidney failure in cats, so there's really nothing you can give a cat. And so vets are always looking for something else. When we launched the Pet Pain Away, we sent it out to a bunch of vets, and we got some amazing stories right away. Dr. Keith Gordon, who we've added to our medical advisory board, he's called us several times that right away, the first week he had the product, he had a woman come in with her cat who had been in severe pain for many months, and the plan was to euthanize the cat. It was time to talk about end of life. And he said, you know what, we just got this new product in, why don't you try it? So she took the Pet Pain Away and took her cat home. And she said even after one dose, she saw the difference. But after a couple of days, she could not believe that the cat was up and about, was running around the house. It was just like, hadn't been like that in years. And we literally saved that cat's life. And so he's seen that in almost all the patients, and a great majority of the patients he's had on the Pet Pain Away, he's seen a great return to function. I've got 2 dogs, Cupcake and Bubbles. They get the Pet Pain Away every day. We just put it in their food, and they love it. When we put it on their food, they consider it a treat. And they're older dogs. You know, they're 11 and 12, and they run around the house like puppies. You know, the product works amazingly well for them. Now, we are working at reformulating the Pet Pain Away because a lot of the mass market distribution that we're looking for sometime in the future is looking for more of a treat, a chewable product, rather than an oral gel. So we're working on putting it into a small chewable treat, like maybe little bones for dogs, little bells for cats, but something that will be much easier to dose than an oral gel. And that'll be out probably by the end of next year. So that's how we're expanding the market for Pet Pain Away. And so I talked about the fact that we're a strong biotechnology company. We've got these great products in the pipeline, and now we're expanding the market for Nyloxin and Pet Pain Away. We also have other products we're looking at. I talked about expanding into Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS, which is something that we looked at years ago, and something that I really believe is going to be incredible new intellectual property for the company. So all that being said, you got to look at the company itself. We are trading at all-time lows as a public company. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I feel that getting the word out, talking about what we're talking about today, is going to make the difference. The interviews that I've just done, the travel I'm going to be doing in the next few weeks, and the fact that we're moving forward expeditiously with our multiple sclerosis drug is going to add a lot of value to the company and our stock. And so I have to thank the Lumaxa distributors. You guys have really put us on the map. The Lumaxa distributors have been our voice on the streets, telling people about not just the power of Nyloxin and Pet Pain Away, but the power of Nutrapharma as a company. And we're incredibly appreciative of the work that Lumaxa has done. And so I hope to be able to do more of these calls. I hope to be able to continue doing the education that we're doing. And, of course, last year we did a few live meetings. I'd love to start doing, like, regional meetings and conferences again to really get the story out about how great these products are and how much you guys can benefit from that.
Wow, fantastic update, Rick. A lot of great information, a lot of great things going on, and I know that by the end of the year, a lot of these things are going to start to hit, and the next time we probably have you back, maybe after the first of the year, you're probably going to have so much good news, it'll take 2 hours to go through all the good news. So, fantastic stuff. Are you able to maybe talk a little bit about that consultant and what you and I were talking about here before the conference call tonight about, some of the endorsers, possible future endorsers of the products?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you guys remember, in early September, I went to New York and I spoke at the See-Through Equities Conference in New York. And See-Through Equities is an independent company that actually wrote a nice research report on Nutrapharma a few months ago. It was, as we're trading around 10 or 11 cents a share, they say, listen, they're really valued. They're worth 53 cents right now. And so we went up and spoke at the See-Through Equities Conference, and we met a lot of people. And one of the guys they met was Jack Brewer. And Jack Brewer is a former professional football player. He played for the Minnesota Vikings. He played for the New York Giants. But he has a group called the Brewer Group, which is a pretty large business development group. And we just signed them on as consultants. They're really great guys. They're going to help get our products to all the major league sports teams, like starting with football. He's already given the product to a lot of football players, but he works with baseball players, with hockey players, with boxers, and he also does international consulting and distribution. So we're talking to groups all over the country, but we're also talking to groups in Central and South America and throughout Europe and Asia. Very, very strong relationships globally that he's built over the last 20 years. And it's really great to be working with him. And just today, part of the process of getting to know each other is we went down to the snake farm, and you got to see the snakes and see that we're the real deal. I mean, you can look at we have our offices in Coral Springs. We have our laboratory warehouse facility down in Plantation, Florida. And that's really cool. It shows that we're a legitimate company. But then when you go and see the source of our drug products, and you can see these live cobras that are producing the venom that we're using to make life-changing medication, that's really cool stuff. And it really shows you that we've thought about the future. We know that the limiting factor in our success is going to be the availability of cobra venom. And so we've actually created this snake farm. I mean, the reptile farm was there, but we created our facility at the snake farm that when it's complete is going to house 2,400 snakes, 2,400 cobras. And we just got another 100 cobras in, and they're putting them on the line next week. So it's really amazing. And that's something, too, like as we start to grow and we have more and more people come, one of the things that we can offer them is they can actually go and visit the cobras if they want to and see for themselves. It's pretty cool stuff, Steve. As you know, you've been there.
Oh yeah, it's cool. It was cool one time. I don't know if I need the repeat experience because I tell you what, I get nervous around snakes. Shelly will tell you, I was willing to stand behind Shelly, wasn't it? Yeah, I know. Shelly's saying you're a big chicken. Well, you know what? When it comes around poisonous snakes, yes, I will admit I'm a little bit afraid. Okay, but it was a great experience, Rick, and it was awesome. Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear. So it was a great experience going down to the snake farm, and definitely. Oh, can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah. Okay. I was saying it was a great experience to go down to the snake farm and to see it with our own eyes, how that whole facility, how they take care of all the snakes and how they, handle them. It's just amazing. It's a really cool experience, and it'd be awesome if everybody could experience at least one time. So I'd like to open up, for some Q&A here for just a minute. If anybody has a question here, type it in the chat here, and we got Rick here for at least a few more minutes anyway. So go ahead and type in any questions for Rick if you want to ask him anything about that update that you just heard about the Nyloxin, the pet pain away. Fire away. Now it's your opportunity, and as busy as Rick is, it may be a while before we have him back. So take advantage of the time we have with him right now and ask your questions, guys.
All right, Steve. So while we're waiting for the questions, I'll just finish talking about Jack Brewer and his people. As we said, he's already got professional athletes using the products, and one of the things we're looking forward to is all these athletes are his friends, his clients. So we're going to get some nice testimonials, some nice real endorsements from professional athletes that we don't have to hire. We don't have to pay these people to talk about the products. They're thrilled to use them and tell us about them. So we're looking forward to getting some of these stories in the next few weeks. Jack himself has a bad knee, from when he played football. And when he first met me in New York, he tried the product right away. And he couldn't believe how it helped his knee within 20 minutes, just rubbing the gel on his knee. So he's a product user as well and a true believer.
Well, we have a question from Shelly. The question, I'll read it out loud because we have some people listening by phone tonight. The question is, are there any adverse reactions with asthma people or medicine?
Okay, so we haven't seen any contraindications with any medications. In fact, we mostly just see synergies. Anyone on any other kind of pain drug, any other kind of anti-inflammatory, because the mechanism is so wildly different than the Nyloxin. we only see synergies. It seems to work better no matter what else you take. When it comes to medications, we haven't seen any contraindications of any medications. Of course, we haven't seen every interaction with every medication. We understand the mechanism. The mechanism is it attaches to the nicotinic acetylcholine receptor. So we felt that it might be contraindicated with cigarette smoking, and we told people early on that if you smoke cigarettes, the product might not work for you. And then we started giving it to people who are chain smokers, and they got the same benefits, if not better benefits, than people who didn't smoke. So to date, we haven't seen any specific contraindication with any medication or any activity.
We have another question here by Chris Sullivan asking, will there be an injectable for the vets for the larger animals? I'm assuming he's talking about Pet Pain Away.
Of homeopathics for animals, at least in the United States, it's very gray. It's a very gray area. The FDA Center for Vet Med doesn't really want to touch it. The USDA doesn't really want to touch it. And so it's a really gray area. If we move into injectables, then we're clearly moving into the FDA Center for Vet Med, and we have to talk to them about how we would create that, how it would be regulated, and even how it would be tested. So it's certainly something we'd like to look at, and we've talked to some vets about it who'd be willing to do the research, but it's right now just in the planning stages. We can't move forward yet with it.
While they're coming up with the next question, I have a question that I will ask Rik, and the question is there still plans for the future for developing a naloxone sample size product?
That was actually a Lumaxa thing that we're trying to do. I think it's really valuable. The problem is it is incredibly expensive to do it, to do small runs. So if we're going to do it, we'd have to make about 1 million of them. So we'd have to make sure that it's something that everybody wanted, and we could put it together, and then we'd have to have the labeling proper. So it's something we did move forward with, and we're kind of ready to pull the trigger on. We just haven't done it yet. I am, like I said, talking to distributors who are working directly in doctors' offices, and of course, every doctor's office wants a sample. Now, as I said before, the oral spray can take up to a week to work. Some people say it doesn't work at all until the 5th or 6th or 7th day. So any of the samples would only be the topical gel, and so we were looking at doing a 2 milliliter sample of topical gel in a little card with the basic information on it. So that's something that's still on the drawing board. We just have to decide when we're going to pull the trigger on it. So my guess is if we start in the next 30 days or so, it's something we'd have either by the end of the year or early next year.
Candace Keller has a question. Are you still planning on putting the regular strength naloxone? And maybe she's, I'm not sure, Candace, if you're referring to Cobroxin back in the stores.
Yeah, well, we talked about that. We actually talked about relaunching Cobroxin. It's a very expensive proposition to go back into retail. Understand, a lot of people think that retail stores make money on selling products, but the great majority of retail stores make money on selling their shelf space. In essence, they're renting their shelf space to vendors, and you pay these large shelving fees and cut-in fees to get into the stores. CVS, for example, their average cut-in fee is $200,000 per SKU or per product unit. And so if we were doing, say, 4 SKUs of naloxone, it would be $800,000 just to put it on the shelves. And then there's no guarantee it would sell. You still have to market it and be able to effectively get it off the shelves. And so it's a very expensive proposition to go back into retail. We did talk about relaunching Cobroxin. We still own Cobroxin, which is half the strength of naloxone, and that's a product that used to be in the stores. Everyone loved it. It's something I think I'd like to do, but we just don't have the budget to do that, because you're talking about a minimum of $3 to $5 million just to get it back into the stores and start the advertising campaigns. So it's something we talked about doing a few years ago when we had an outside funding source, but that particular guy who was going to do it actually passed away last October. He had a COPD, and so that kind of shelved the plans for now. But, you know, I got my guy at Walgreens I talk to every 6 months or so. To this day, he says that the Cobroxin was the best product no one ever heard of. And so it's all about branding. It's all about getting the word out. So right now, Lumaxa people are getting the word out. People are using the products. And we'll see. At some point, sometime in the future, some version of this should be sold retail. As much as I love network marketing, there's only 13 million Americans in network marketing. That means there's 310 million Americans that don't have access to this product. So they're not into network marketing or have no interest in network marketing. So at some point, the only way they're going to have access to the product is through retail sales. But right now, it's really not even in the planning stage.
A follow-up question by Candace, looking for maybe any updates you could offer on zeolite product that you were working on.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I love the zeolite products. I was working on several different zeolite products for the general market. Understand, I still sell natural cellular defense to Wayora through Wayora, and so Wayora's still around. Natural cellular defense is a colloidal suspension of zeolite, small half-ounce dropper bottle, and we're looking at doing soft gels and different formulations. And things, kind of got away from us, but we still want to do that. I also took over a company last year called Greenhouse Solutions, and it works mostly in the cannabis space using CBDs or the antioxidant components from the marijuana plant. And we're going to launch a zeolite product that contains the CBDs as well. So we're looking at a bunch of different things that'll probably come around first quarter next year. So stay posted as things progress, as we get the lab set up, then I'll be able to give better timelines for that.
Fantastic. Let's take a final question here. Anybody have a final question before we wrap up here tonight?
Yeah.
Anybody have a final question for Rick before we wrap this one up tonight? Go ahead and type it in real quick. All right. Well, Rick, this has been a great webinar, great updates, always positive information and things happening. It's always, I love hearing about what you're working on, because every time we talk, you've always got 2 or 3 new big projects in the works for Nutripharma, and Nutripharma's got an awesome future in front of it. Obviously, the next 6 to 12 months, some big groundbreaking things are about to happen. So we'll be eager to hear from you again after the probably the first of the year, when you'll probably have a lot of great new updates for us beginning in the next quarter. So thank you so much for taking some time to be with us tonight.
Good.
I'm not sure if we lost Rick or not, but folks, we're going to go ahead and wrap up here. If you want to go ahead and type in the chat your appreciation for Rick being on the webinar, go ahead and type that in here quick before we wrap up and close out the room. But just want to remind everybody that we're still underway with our webinar blitz, that we did a special presentation here for the 9 o'clock, but we will be back at midnight Eastern time tonight for our final presentation of the day for the CAP program. So be sure to come back and tune in for the midnight call if you want to bring a guest on there. And then, of course, tomorrow, Friday, we hit it hard again 3 times tomorrow at noon, 9, and midnight Eastern time tomorrow. So we're still cranking them out, guys, here to the end of this month, 3 times a day, 6 days a week. So join us, plug in, invite, be a part of the excitement, everything going on here with Lumaxa. And get out and tell your friends about Nyloxin, guys. I mean, Nyloxin pet pain away. I mean, when the weather gets cold like it is up here up north, that's when things start to hurt again. All the pain starts to come back. The arthritic conditions, their joints start to get sore again. So, perk up your ears, and when you hear people complain about it, tell them about pet pain away for their pets. Tell them about Nyloxin for pain relief for their aches and pains in their joints and so forth. These are the best products in the market as far as I'm concerned for pain relief, and we have them right here. So be talking, telling people about it, and the testimonials are incredible. We hear the stories all the time. So again, Rick, I don't know if you are still with us, but thank you again. And I can hear you now. We couldn't hear you before. It kind of went dead space, but we can hear you now.
You said, I guess we lost Rick. So go to nutripharma.com, and if you haven't done so already, sign up for our newsletter and sign up for our press releases, because every time we have a press release, it blasts out to that list. So just go on NutriPharma.com and sign up for our press releases and our information. And there's a lot of stuff coming up, so you want to be able to see it as soon as it comes out.
And that is awesome. And I always love seeing that email come in, because I always know there's something exciting going on when a press release comes out. So that's for sure. Get on that list. Go to NutriPharma.com, guys. And some of you were asking about this presentation being recorded, and the good news is yes, it was. So I'll get it edited up tonight. We'll get it up on the YouTube channel here later this evening, and you'll have a playback available to share with your team here later tonight and tomorrow. And that's it, guys. We're going to wrap this one up. Thank you again, Rik. Have a great rest of your fall and holiday season. I can't believe that you're the first person I just said that to. But you know what? I won't probably talk to you for a while, so have a great rest of your 2015. We'll talk again soon. God bless everybody. Have a great night.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody. Thanks.